The price of curiosity. Humanity's expansion into the stars had been marked by caution and diplomacy. For over 80 years, Earth had established colonies on 17 planets and made contact with 14 alien species. The Galactic Concordat, a loose alliance of spacefaring civilizations, welcomed humans as pragmatic newcomers who valued cooperation over conflict. Earth's Space Force existed primarily as a defensive measure, its formidable capabilities rarely displayed beyond training exercises and peacekeeping missions. This era of relative peace shattered on a cold Tuesday morning when Admiral Eliza Chen received the transmission from Outpost Helios, a research station orbiting Proxima Centauri. "Replay the message," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The holographic display flickered, revealing the tear-streaked face of Dr. James Sato. "They took Maya," he whispered, his voice cracking. "The Moraki delegation. They were touring the educational facility. My daughter was just showing them her science project. Then they just walked out with her. When we protested, they said it was within their rights to collect unique specimens. God help me, they called her a specimen." Admiral Chen closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with newfound steel. "How long ago?" 17 hours. We tracked their vessel to the Moreki research outpost in the Ta City system. Earth Diplomatic Corps has been in continuous contact, but they refuse to return her. They claim it's a misunderstanding of cultural protocols. The Moraki had made contact with humanity just 3 years earlier. Tall, with iridescent exoskeletons and compound eyes, they presented themselves as an ancient race of scholars and scientists. Their technology was centuries beyond Earth's, particularly in biological sciences. Initial exchanges had been promising, if somewhat cold. The Moraki appeared incapable of understanding human emotions, viewing them as evolutionary inefficiencies. Admiral Chen activated the secure channel to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. "Initiate Protocol Cerberus," she said simply. "The Moraki have taken a child." Within hours, Earth's response machinery groaned into motion. The Moraki ambassador, Sentinel Krex, stood before the United Earth Council, his compound eyes reflecting the harsh lights of the chamber. "Your emotional attachment to juvenile offspring is noted but irrelevant to scientific inquiry," Krex clicked, mandibles moving in what humans had come to recognize as dismissal. The specimen appeared physically unremarkable, but demonstrated unusual cognitive patterns during our preliminary interactions. Further study was deemed necessary. Council President Amara Okafor's voice was dangerously quiet. "Her name is Maya Sato. She is 8 years old. Return her immediately, unharmed, or face consequences." Consequences. Krex's head tilted in genuine confusion. "For advancing knowledge. The Moraki have studied thousands of species across multiple galaxies. This is standard protocol." The transmission that arrived 12 hours later broke something fundamental in humanity's collective psyche. The Moraki, true to their scientific nature, had broadcast detailed footage of their examination procedures on Maya Sato. They had not used anesthesia. They had not shown mercy, and when her small heart finally gave out, they noted it as an unexpected termination of the specimen. When the footage reached Earth's public networks, despite government attempts to contain it, the planet fell silent. Then it roared. In the command center of the UES Nemesis, the newly commissioned flagship of Earth's previously dormant battle fleet, Dr. James Sato stood beside Admiral Chen as she addressed the assembled officers. "What you're about to undertake has never been sanctioned in human history," she said, her voice echoing across the cavernous bridge. "Operation Righteous Fury has been unanimously approved by all 194 nations of Earth. The Moraki have demonstrated a fundamental incompatibility with human existence." On the main screen, Maya's school photograph appeared. A small girl with curious eyes and a gap-toothed smile, her dark hair pulled into uneven pigtails. "This is not about revenge," Admiral Chen continued, though everyone present knew this was not entirely true. This is about ensuring that no civilization ever again mistakes our capacity for peace as an absence of capacity for war. Dr. Seto stepped forward, his eyes hollow but his voice firm. The Moraki have extensive research outposts across 7 star systems. Their central hive mind communication network connects all Moraki individuals across their empire. Their biology is silicon-based, with a distributed nervous system. I've uploaded everything we know about their physiology and technology to your tactical systems. The first strike came without warning. The Moraki research outpost in the Ta City system, where Maya had been taken, simply ceased to exist. Earth's newly unveiled quantum torpedoes bypassed the outpost's advanced shielding as if it weren't there, converting the entire structure into superheated plasma. The Moraki response came hours later, a transmission from their homeworld of Morak Prime. This action is inefficient and illogical, declared High Sentinel Vex, the closest thing the Moraki had to a leader. One research station represents a minimal portion of our knowledge infrastructure. If restitution is required for the terminated specimen, we offer technological exchange. Admiral Chen's reply was brief. Her name was Maya. The UES Nemesis led a fleet of 30 warships into Moraki space. On each vessel, crews worked with cold efficiency, deploying weapons systems that had been developed in secret, weapons that human diplomats had assured the Galactic community did not exist. The Moraki Defense Fleet, while technologically advanced, had never faced an enemy driven by rage rather than strategy. They expected humans to target military installations, to follow the logical progressions of warfare. Instead, the Earth Fleet targeted Moraki nurseries, the vast underground complexes where the species young developed. This is irrational. The Moraki communications insisted as their birthing centers burned. You damage future scientific potential for one non-recoverable specimen. Earth didn't respond. Information specialists across the fleet had developed a virus specifically designed to infiltrate the Moraki hive mind network. Called Maya's Whisper, it carried no destructive payload, no military objective. Instead, it simply broadcast the child's final minutes, her fear, her pain, her calls for her parents, directly into the collective consciousness of every Moraki in existence. For the first time in their 50,000-year civilization, the Moraki experienced human suffering. 3 days into the campaign, the Galactic Concordat attempted intervention. Representatives from the Arcturian and Vega collectives appeared in Earth's orbit, requesting immediate cessation of hostilities. The Moraki have appealed for protection under Concordat law, the Arcturian ambassador stated. While their actions were reprehensible by human standards, proportional response. President Okafor cut the transmission. Earth had already withdrawn from the Concordat the day after Maya's death. Humanity stood alone and preferred it that way. On the bridge of the UES Nemesis, Dr. Seto watched as tactical displays showed the systematic neutralization of Moraki outposts across 3 star systems. He felt neither joy nor satisfaction, only a hollow emptiness where his daughter had once been. "Sir," a young lieutenant reported, "we've intercepted a Moraki transmission. It appears they're evacuating their scientific archives from their homeworld." Admiral Chen nodded. "As expected. Prepare the Lazarus Protocol." The lieutenant hesitated. "Ma'am, Lazarus hasn't been field tested. The simulations suggest a 37% chance of cascading stellar destabilization." "Noted, Lieutenant." "Proceed." Dr. Seto looked up. "What's the Lazarus Protocol?" Admiral Chen's eyes remained fixed on the display. "Something we developed hoping we'd never use it. A targeted quantum field that rewrites the atomic structure of silicon-based life forms. It will only affect the Moraki. Their buildings, technology, and art will remain intact. You're going to erase them from existence," Seto whispered. "No, James," Chen replied softly. "They erased themselves when they decided a human child was just a specimen." As the fleet approached Morak Prime, the Moraki finally seemed to grasp the magnitude of their miscalculation. A new transmission arrived, not from the High Sentinel, but from thousands of individual Moraki, their usually synchronized voices discordant with what could only be described as fear. "We understand now," they chittered. "The Maya child was precious. We did not know. The Maya whisper shows us what we did. We offer our young ones to you. Take them as yours. Teach them your ways. But please, allow our species to continue." On the bridge of the Nemesis, silence fell as the crew awaited orders. Dr. Seto stared at the image of the Moraki homeworld on the view screen, a beautiful azure sphere with rings of ice crystals circling its equator. Admiral Chen turned to him. "This isn't a military decision anymore," she said quietly. "What do you want us to do, James?" Dr. Seto closed his eyes, seeing Maya's face, not as she was in those final terrible moments, but as she had been on her last birthday, blowing out candles, eyes bright with the future she would never have. "They need to understand," he said finally, his voice barely audible. "Really understand what they've taken from us." The echo of extinction. The Lazarus Protocol remained armed but inactive as Earth's fleet established orbit around Morak Prime. Admiral Chen ordered all weapons systems into standby mode, not powering down, but not immediately firing. It was a precarious pause in what had been 3 weeks of relentless destruction. "Open a direct channel to their leadership," she commanded. "Visual and audio, maximum broadcast range." On the main view screen, the image of High Sentinel Vex appeared. The once imperious Moraki leader's exoskeleton had dulled from its vibrant blue to a sickly gray. When he spoke, his mandibles quivered uncharacteristically. "Humans of Earth," Vex began, "we acknowledge a grave error in judgment. The Maya child's termination was wrong." The word seemed foreign in the Moraki language, as if they had rarely needed to use it. "We offer complete surrender and technological reparations." Admiral Chen's response was measured. "You still don't understand. This isn't about technology or surrender. Show me your nurseries." The request clearly confused the Moraki leader, but a signal was given off-screen. The view shifted to vast underground chambers where thousands of translucent eggs pulsed with internal light. Within each, the silhouette of a developing Moraki could be seen. "These are our future generations," Vex explained. "Our greatest scientists, our most promising genetic lineages." Dr. Seto stepped forward, standing beside Admiral Chen. "And you would protect them at all costs." "Of course, they are the continuation of all Moraki knowledge and advancement." "My daughter," Seto said, his voice breaking slightly, "enjoyed drawing butterflies. She was learning to play the violin. She wanted to be a doctor when she grew up, because she hated seeing people in pain." He paused, steadying himself. "You didn't just take a specimen. You took all the possibilities of who she might have become." For the first time, something like comprehension flickered across the High Sentinel's compound eyes. "We have made a decision," Admiral Chen announced. "Earth will not deploy the Lazarus Protocol against your homeworld." Relief visibly washed through the Moraki leader's posture, but Chen wasn't finished. "Instead, we will establish a permanent human outpost in your system. Every Moraki will undergo mandatory education in human ethics and emotional psychology. Furthermore, 10% of your young will be raised with human values, taught by human educators. You would indoctrinate our offspring." Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly in alarm. "We would ensure they understand what it means to value life beyond its scientific potential," corrected Chen. "And one more thing. A monument to Maya Sato will stand in your capital, and her story will be taught to every Moraki generation." The conditions were non-negotiable. The alternative hung unspoken between them, the complete eradication of the Moraki species. Within hours, the surrender was formalized. Not everyone on Earth agreed with the decision. Protests erupted across human colonies, with many demanding the complete extinction of the species that had so casually taken a child's life. In the hastily reconvened Earth Council, representatives were divided. "We had them at our mercy," argued the representative from the African Confederation. What message does this send to other species who might consider humans easy targets? President Okafor stood firm. The message is clear. We can exterminate you if provoked, but our capacity for mercy is what truly separates us from monsters. We've demonstrated both our power and our restraint. On the UES Nemesis, Admiral Chen received new orders. She would remain in the Moraki system as Earth's military governor for an initial period of 5 years. The deployment was considered a hardship posting, but she had requested it personally. Why stay among them? Dr. Seto asked her as they walked through the ship's hydroponics garden, a rare moment of peace amid the aftermath of conflict. Chen stopped before a small tree that had been planted in the center of the garden, a Japanese cherry blossom that Dr. Seto had brought aboard. A small plaque at its base read simply, Maya. "Because someone needs to ensure they learn," she replied. "And because I need to ensure we don't forget why we came." 6 months into the occupation, the first integrated education centers opened on Morak Prime. Human teachers worked alongside the few Moraki who had shown aptitude for understanding emotional intelligence. The process was awkward, often frustrating, but gradually producing results. Dr. Seto had returned to Earth, unable to bear proximity to the species that had taken his daughter. But on the 1-year anniversary of Maya's death, a transmission arrived from Admiral Chen that drew him back to his private quarters to view alone. The recording showed a gathering of young Moraki, their exoskeletons still soft and pearlescent with youth. They stood before the monument to Maya, a simple statue of a young girl holding a butterfly in her open palm. One by one, they placed small luminescent stones at the base of the statue, a Moraki tradition to honor those who had contributed to knowledge. "We learn from Maya, child." Their immature voices clicked in unison. "We learn the value of potential. We learn the sacredness of young ones. We learn the error of our elders." Dr. Seto wept for the first time since identifying his daughter's remains. Meanwhile, humanity's reputation across the galaxy underwent a seismic shift. The species once viewed as diplomatic newcomers was now recognized as perhaps the most dangerous force in known space, not because of their technology, which was still relatively primitive, but because of the ferocity with which they protected their own. The Galactic Concordat, which had attempted to intervene on the Moraki's behalf, now courted Earth's return with unprecedented concessions. New clauses were added to interspecies protocols explicitly protecting juvenile sentience of all races. The conflict that became known as Maya's War established humanity not just as participants in galactic society, but as shapers of its moral framework. 3 years after the occupation began, the first generation of what came to be called Bridge Moraki emerged from the education program. Unlike their predecessors, these young aliens could recognize facial expressions, understand emotional contexts, and even demonstrate a rudimentary form of empathy. They became invaluable intermediaries between the two species. In a private communication to Dr. Seto, Admiral Chen shared footage of a young Moraki named X, who had shown particular promise in the integration program. "Why did the humans not exterminate us when they could have?" An interviewer asked the young alien. X's response was thoughtful. "Because then, they would have lost something else precious, their capacity to see beyond revenge to possibility. The Maya child died because we could not see her value beyond scientific data. If humans had eliminated us entirely, they would have made a similar error, seeing us only as the crime of our elders." Dr. Seto, now working at a research hospital on Mars, watched the interview several times before composing his reply to Chen. "Perhaps there is hope for them," he wrote. "Maya would have liked that." 5 years after the occupation began, Earth's military presence around Morak Prime was reduced by 60%. The Moraki, forever changed by their encounter with human wrath and mercy, began the slow process of reintegration into galactic society. Their scientific advancements continued, but now tempered with ethical frameworks they had previously lacked. On the 10th anniversary of Maya's death, a delegation of Bridge Moraki requested permission to visit Earth, the first of their kind to do so. Their destination was not a diplomatic meeting or scientific exchange, but a small cherry orchard in Hokkaido where Maya's ashes had been scattered. Dr. Sato, now gray and stooped with age, met them there as cherry blossoms drifted on the spring breeze. The Moraki representatives, led by the now-adult Ix, presented him with a crystalline structure that captured and refracted light in intricate patterns. "We cannot return the Maya child to you," Ix said, mandibles moving gently in what the integration program had designated as the Moraki approximation of sorrow. "But we have encoded every known memory of her. Her school records, her artwork, her genetic sequence, and the testimonies of all who knew her, into this memory crystal. On Morik Prime, an identical crystal stands at the center of our education complex. No Moraki will ever again fail to understand what was lost." Dr. Sato accepted the crystal, watching as it caught the sunlight filtering through the cherry blossoms, sending rainbows dancing across the orchard. "In destroying those who harmed your child, you could have destroyed us all," Ix continued. "In choosing not to, you gave birth to something new. A Moraki that can begin to understand love and loss as humans do." Dr. Sato placed the crystal at the base of the largest cherry tree. "Maya loved butterflies because they changed from one form into something new and beautiful," he said quietly. "She would be pleased to know her memory helped change your people." As if summoned by his words, a butterfly with iridescent blue wings, remarkably similar to the natural coloration of Moraki exoskeletons, fluttered down to rest briefly on the crystal before continuing its journey through the orchard. The moment was captured by waiting journalists and broadcast across Earth and to all human colonies. For many, it marked the final chapter in a story that had begun with unimaginable tragedy. For others, it represented a new beginning, proof that even in the cold vastness of space, understanding could bloom from the ashes of conflict. In classified archives aboard the now decommissioned UES Nemesis, the activation codes for the Lazarus Protocol remained intact but unused, a reminder of the line humanity had approached but chosen not to cross. The weapon represented humanity's capacity for retribution. The cherry trees and the bridge Moraki represented their capacity for renewal. Both would remain as testament to a truth that would echo across the stars for generations to come. Humanity's greatest strength was not in their weapons or their rage, but in their ability to transform both into something that might, eventually, resemble peace. In the end, humanity had not erased the Moraki from the galaxy. They had rewritten them instead. And in doing so, perhaps they had rewritten themselves as well.